Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Duke It Out Wrestling Podcast, where I, Duke, talk about the events from the past, present, or future that happen in the world of professional wrestling. Now, for the first episode of the podcast, it was a review for an AEW pay per view, but I don't think I've done predictions for an AEW pay per view yet in the podcast, but I'm going to for tomorrow's pay per view, Double or Nothing. Now, this is the fourth annual event, I think, they've had for Double or Nothing so far. Yep, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. I'm very excited for this event. The only really downside is with like a lot of AEW shows, there are a lot of matches on the card. So I know the show is going to be a very, very long one. Especially, I think the card is going to start, I think at 8 o'clock, at least for the main card. And that's 12 matches along with one for the buy-in. So I could imagine the main event starting maybe a little bit past midnight, which may get a little bit tiresome, but as long as it's some great pro wrestling, there really isn't that much to complain about. Now I'm going to run through the entire card and give my predictions on who is going to win or who I would want to win. Now, for the first match I'm going to be talking about is the only match that is announced for the buy-in, and that is the team of Hookhausen, the team of Hook and Danhausen, versus Tony Nese and Smart Mark Sterling. Now, the whole Hookhausen storyline has been hilarious and has had great build-up with the backstage sketches, and then with Danhausen trying to make friends with Hook, but then he just attacked him, but really he just left him a bag of better-made chips with a bow wrapped around it. I thought that was hilarious, especially because I know Danhausen's from Michigan. I'm from Michigan as well, and we know Michiganders love better-made chips. So I thought that was a really funny bit. And then them shaking hands and the crowd popping was really, really fun. And with Danhausen losing his debut match to Tony Nese in seconds, it makes sense that the tag team debut for Hookhausen is going to have a Tony Nese involvement, along with Smart Mark Sterling. And this should be a fun match. Nothing that's like a technical classic by any stretch, even though people like Tony Nese are really, really good pro wrestlers, and Hook has been doing really, really well. Even though he's mainly been doing the same moves in his matches so far, it's worked and it's been really great. And I'm really excited to see what the team of Hookhausen can be booked to. And I'll just get to the point here. I really do think that Hookhausen is going to win this match. Well, not to dig on Tony Nese or Smart Mark Sterling or anything, because they're great performers, but I think they're definitely going to be putting Hookhausen over here, because there's definitely going to be more built up for that team than there is for Nese and Sterling at the moment. And it's just going to be fun spots for Hook and Danhausen, so I'm excited to see it. And the first match I'm going to be talking about on the main card is a 6-person mixed tag team match. American Top Team, the team of Scorpio Sky, Ethan Page, and Paige Van Zant, with Dan Lambert in their corner, against the team of Sammy Guevara, Frankie Kazarian, and Ty Conti. Now, with the whole Sammy Guevara and Conti situation, it's definitely been a lot. The whole social media stuff it's been a lot. Now, like, I get that Sammy's sort of doing it to like sort of be heelish, even though he's booked as the babyface, just to kind of dig at the fans that have been just already attacking them. And if you haven't heard, Sammy Guevara and Tay Conti have already gotten like threats from fans, legitimate threats, and it's just like the most sickening thing you can possibly imagine. It's like when you hear this happening from wrestling fans, it both surprises me and doesn't, because there have been situations like this before with people like Sonya Deville and recently Alexa Bliss as well. So it's just really, really awful. And at least with that situation, just leave the two alone. I know there was the whole sort of drama with Sammy breaking up with his fiance and that stuff beforehand, but legitimate death threats, anyone could agree that's way too far. So anyway, back into the actual match topic. This should be a decent match in of itself. I believe this is going to be the first in-ring match for Paige Van Zant in AEW, if I'm not mistaken. And that should be a lot of fun to witness. I don't necessarily know how her ring work is necessarily going to be, but it should be decent enough, especially for a mixed tag match. They could have spots to make sure that they're just more so in the corner, or if anything really happens, they can immediately tag in someone else. And I think it should be decent in of itself. Scorpio Sky and Sammy Guevara have been having really good chemistry during their feud, and the build-up with the SCU breakup of Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky in there. If Christopher Daniels walked out, it would be a funny add to the match, and I'm sure the crowd would get a good pop for it. And also when it comes to who's going to win this match, there is the added stipulation that I forgot to mention earlier that if American Top Team do win this match, neither Sammy Guevara or Frankie Kazarian will be allowed to challenge for the TNT title as long as Scorpio Sky is champion. Now, with that stipulation added to it, I think they're going to give it to American Top Team for now, because with how transitional the TNT title has been recently, I could imagine someone else who's not Sammy Guevara or Frankie Kazarian beating Scorpio Sky for the title, and they could especially continue the Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian feud, because I think that has much more intrigue to add on television, whether or not it is for a title, and you could even add Christopher Daniels to make an SCU triple threat, which would be awesome. So I think with that, Scorpio Sky, Ethan Page, and Paige Van Zandt would get a heel victory, and Dan Lambert will be jumping around all around the ring, and the crowd be booing, and it'll be a fun heel moment. Now, for the next match I'm going to be talking about in the main card, I think this was the most recently added match to the card, and while I'm definitely excited for it, I guess, but with all the matches added on the card, I'm not really sure how much time could really be invested to it. And that is Kyle O'Reilly versus Darby Allin. And if you already don't know, Kyle O'Reilly is one of my favorite wrestlers currently. Darby Allin's one of the best characters in AEW and in the world right now. So this definitely has the potential to be a very fun match. And Darby Allin shows that he can have a really intriguing matchup in just a short amount of time. If you go back to his match with Sammy Guevara, that was about 5 minutes long. I can't remember if it was at a Revolution or Full Gear. I think it was at Revolution 2020, and just with that 5-minute match, it was memorable and had really good spots, and I had a really good time with it. And I have a feeling this is going to be one of those matches, and I think Kyle O'Reilly is going to immediately just start striking Darby and make him submit within maybe 6 to 7 minutes. And I think mainly because of that, because Darby is over enough to have that kind of a loss and not have it really harm his character build or anything like that, or even any potential of him getting a title match anytime soon. But also with that, Sting is now not able to appear at Double or Nothing. I can't remember if it was from an injury or an illness, but with that added to it, it could be sort of like a meaningful add to the story that without Sting in his corner, Darby couldn't do as much. And that could lead to a very intriguing story once Sting returns. And like I said, Darby's over enough to get a decent loss, and Kyle O'Reilly needs a better singles win after losing the semifinal in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. So I think this would definitely just be a decent boost for Kyle O'Reilly at the pay-per-view. Next match I'm going to be talking about is for the AEW TBS Championship, and that is Jade Cargill versus Anna Jay. Now, Jade Cargill has been improving in the ring match after match, in my opinion. Some previously might have been a tiny bit better, maybe a tiny bit worse, but she's definitely been showing off her improvements in the ring, and her mic skills have always been top-notch, and she's been a great champion, and the undefeated streak is definitely intriguing. And Anna Jay as the next opponent is definitely intriguing enough, while I definitely do think she is not going to be the person to end Jade Cargill's undefeated streak. She can definitely bring in some very good spots. And Anna Jay hasn't had a big spotlight singles match in a pay-per-view, at least in a while, or maybe at any of the pay-per-view events so far. And I really think she could show off some really nice spotlights in this match. And she will definitely be able to sell Jade Cargill's offense very well. So when it comes to the actual match itself, I don't think it'll necessarily be the match of Jade Cargill's title reign, but they could definitely surprise me with some decent back and forth chemistry, and they can even add some David and Goliath sort spots to it. While Jade isn't necessarily bigger than Anna Jay by any stretch, she's definitely got a lot more muscle, and she's a lot stronger, and they could definitely take a lot more advantage of that with Jade Cargill doing a lot more powerhouse moves, which Anna Jay could definitely sell well, which then could get some nice strikes or maybe aerial moves in from Anna Jay. And while I don't think this match will get a decent enough amount of time, because I don't think the TBS title match at the last pay-per-view didn't get as much time as well, I hope it gets at least a decent 10 minutes, but I definitely think Jade Cargill's undefeated streak will remain intact. Next up is another 6-man tag team match with the House of Black, obviously the team of Malachi Black, Buddy Matthews, and Brody King, against Death Triangle, Pac, Penta Oscuro, and Rey Fenix. Now, this is just going to be a spot fest city match, and regardless of how much time it gets, there's going to be much memorable stuff to talk about because it's Malachi Black, who's always been one of the best strikers in the game, Buddy Matthews, who's been one of the most underrated talents in the pro wrestling industry for years, Brody King, who is becoming one of wrestling's most dominant powerhouses in recent years, and then Pac, and then the Lucha Brothers. If I really need to mention all the highlights that they have done, which I definitely will in my next video, which will be the top 10 AEW matches of their year 3, which, obviously enough, both Pac and the Lucha Brothers, or necessarily all 3 of them, are in matches in that top 10. So I definitely can see this being either a top match of the year candidate or just a really fun spot fest match to mainly get the House of Black over, because while I do think that Death Triangle could definitely be potential contenders to end the undefeated streak of the House of Black team, I don't necessarily think that should happen yet, especially with the only real singles losses I can remember of Malachi Black. There was one to Cody, and I remember him losing to someone else, but I can't remember who it was at the moment. So I think the House of Black definitely need another dominant win here. It's definitely going to be a very fun match. And while I am definitely going with a lot more heel victories here, I definitely think there will be some more babyface victories down the road. So let's move on down the card. Next is another dream match for AEW. While it has happened in promotions such as Ring of Honor, it has never happened in AEW, and that is the Hardys versus the Young Bucks. Now, it's the Hardys versus the Young Bucks. The anticipation that I can really describe for this match would be sort of the same description by many other pro wrestling fans, because it's the Hardys and the Young Bucks, the best tag team of different generations clashing, and it's going to be an awesome match. The crowd is going to go insane for it, and Jeff Hardy has been showing off, especially in that insane Anything Goes match with Darby Allin, that he can still go and bring out an amazing match. And I think both him and Matt are really going to deliver here and bring out their best Hardy Boys match in years. And the Young Bucks have definitely brought great build-up with this match, with their recent entrance on Rampage mocking the Hardys, and even having Gangrel come out, which was hilarious. That definitely brought a nice little heat to this feud, and I cannot wait for this match. I really cannot imagine at this point what spots are going to happen, and I kind of want it to stay that way so I can just be just as shocked and surprised when the match is actually happening. And for who's going to win, I could definitely I could honestly see either one of these two winning. I could see the Young Bucks winning or the Hardys winning. But like I said earlier, with me predicting a lot of heel victories at this point, I honestly do think they're going to give the win to the Hardys at this point, because I think they would want the Hardys to be more on the top contender tag team scale at the moment than they would the Young Bucks, because it's the Young Bucks. They can put anyone over and still be the most over tag team on the roster, whether babyface or heel. So I'm just very excited for this dream tag match, and it should be a blast. Next is the Anarchy in the Arena match. I don't love the stipulation name, but it's fine. It's the Jericho Appreciation Society versus the team of Eddie Kingston, Santana Ortiz, and the Blackpool Combat Club, which, if I haven't mentioned yet, the Blackpool Combat Club is my favorite thing about AEW, if not all of wrestling right now. It's such an amazing faction that even just in the beginning of 2022, I never would have expected to happen. So it's always such a great thing to watch them on television, and the build up with them bringing in Wheeler Yuta has been absolutely phenomenal. And while Wheeler Yuta is obviously not going to be in this match, I'm very excited to see the future of Blackpool Combat Club, whether or not they bring in more people or just stick with Moxley, Regal, Danielson, and Yuta. I'm very excited to see what they bring for television. And as for the match itself, it should be a lot of fun, especially with these kind of stipulation matches. Chris Jericho knows exactly what to do with these type of matches, and it makes sense with his new heel character and the Jericho Appreciation Society being more so sports entertainment. So it's more so a sports entertainment versus pro wrestling like match, which a lot of people have mentioned that comparison as well. Now, it should be a decent enough match. I'm not sure if it's going to be in ring or if it could be a filmed match. I more than likely don't think it's going to be a filmed match, but it should be just a tornado multi-man tag, and it should bring in a lot of dominant spots with not as many extreme spots, but just a collision of just insane strikes, lots of insane slams, and maybe a couple shocking aerial spots in there as well. And as for who's going to win, it's a little bit unpredictable in all honesty, especially since the Jericho Appreciation Society have just really started. And I don't think they've had a pay-per-view match as a team. I could see them getting the win as well. But with how over Blackpool Combat Club is, and with Eddie Kingston being one of their top stars as well, I do slightly think I'm going to go more toward Blackpool Combat Club and Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz. It might be a little bit biased because I freaking love the Blackpool Combat Club right now, but I can also see Jericho Appreciation Society getting the win here. This is one of the matches where I'm not as lenient with my prediction, but that's what I'm going to go with for now. Next is the triple threat tag team match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships, and that is Jurassic Express versus Team Taz versus Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. With the match on Dynamite this past week of the triple threat singles match with Jungle Boy, Ricky Starks, and Swerve Strickland, that match was a freaking blast, and Swerve getting the win was a great moment, and it was a nice and it was just a nice moment of, I'm trying to think of the word for it at the moment. Just a nice power advantage for the team of Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland going into the match. And Jurassic Express have been great tag team champions so far. It is pretty funny how from Revolution to Double or Nothing, they're doing 2 triple threat tag matches with different teams each time. And just like their last bout at Revolution with the Young Bucks and Red Dragon, I'm expecting this to be an incredible tag team match with some spots that will just absolutely blow my mind, with Swerve Strickland being an insane striker and can bring out some aerial moves that we always forget that he has on his shoulders. Keith Lee is one of the greatest wrestling characters ever at the moment, and he will bring out a spot of the year in any match that he's in potentially. So I could definitely see him bringing an insane spot in his first championship match in AEW, if I'm not mistaken. And Team Taz have always brought some great spots in. Powerhouse Hobbs has immediately become one of wrestling's most dominant big men, and Ricky Starks has really been one of AEW's most underrated talents. While he does have the FTW championship, he really should be getting a contendership for the TNT or AEW world title at some point, because he can really bring some awesome moments here. And as for who's going to win the match, it's a little bit unpredictable, because with the advantage of Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland on Dynamite, I think that was more so me leaning toward them not winning this match yet, even though they'd be great tag team champions, and since they haven't won a title yet in AEW, that wood be a great way to start it off. But I think they're going to give the win to Team Taz here, and especially with the buy-in match with Hookhausen and Tony Nese and Smart Mark Sterling. I think with Team Taz becoming the tag team champions, Taz will then will talk to Hook about he doesn't like the team of Hookhausen, and then that can bring a little more so is Hook going to side with Danhausen or Team Taz, and then it could maybe bring a tag team title match at All Out with Hookhausen versus Team Taz. I think it would be awesome. So with more so of that future storyline idea that I really hope comes true, I'm definitely going to lean more so toward Team Taz winning this match. And while Jurassic Express are one of my favorite tag teams, I think with especially Jungle Boy losing some matches on his own lately and Christian showing the disappointment in that, it's going to lead to the singles feud between Jungle Boy and Christian, which I am all for. And also that Jungle Boy should just be getting a solo singles push very soon, because if they do anytime soon, he could be the AEW World Champion by the end of 2022 or in the middle of 2023, because he is one of AEW's best wrestlers for sure. Next match I'm going to be talking about is the finals in the Women's Owen Hart Cup tournament, which is Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, versus Ruby Soho. Now, with these two opponents, it's pretty funny how both of these women are the people that the fans more so didn't want to win their matches, with Britt Baker beating Toni Storm, which people were more so wanting Toni Storm to win that match, and with Ruby Soho beating Chris Statlander, it seemed that a lot of fans were even booing Ruby Soho once that victory happened, even though it was more so of a cheaper victory, sort of. Even though Ruby Soho's still a babyface, she acknowledged, like, that's what I did to be able to get a match with you, blah, blah, blah. It's good intrigue, especially since their promo back in August or early September is, to this day, one of AEW's best promo battles of all time. So they're definitely going to bring out a really fun match here. I'm not sure if it's going to get the time it really should get, Probably should get at least a good 15 minutes in there. And for who's going to win, it's honestly a little unpredictable because Britt Baker just recently lost the women's championship. So her getting another moment with the Owen Hart Cup would make a little bit of sense. But Ruby Soho getting it would also make sense because since her big debut at All Out, she really hasn't gotten a big moment like that since All Out. So I really do think they should give it to Ruby Soho here, especially since Britt Baker can obviously afford a loss more in this situation. So I think the winner of the Women's Owen Hart Cup tournament is going to be Ruby Soho. And speaking of the Owen Hart Cup tournament, the finals of the men's Owen Hart Cup tournament is Samoa Joe versus Adam Cole. Now, this is a match I am definitely very, very excited for. Not only are Samoa Joe and Adam Cole two of the best wrestlers in the world currently, but the fanboy me is also thinking it's a battle of two of the best NXT champions of all time, with Samoa Joe being the only 3-time NXT champion and Adam Cole being the longest reigning NXT champion of all time. Yeah, that brought out the nerd fanboy excitement in me for sure. And especially because Samoa Joe's probably going to chop the shit out of Adam Cole. Adam Cole's going to kick the shit out of Samoa Joe. And it's going to be a very fun back and forth match that I think even with 10 to 15 minutes or even 20 minutes, they're going to bring out a fantastic bout here. And with who is going to win, I was going very back and forth on this because especially with the heelish moment of Adam Cole, the sort of Shawn Michael-ish persona with the super kicks, winning the first Owen Hart Cup tournament would be an insane heel moment. But I am wanting to lean more toward Samoa Joe winning, even though he's Ring of Honor television champion right now. This is pretty hard to decide, which I'm really liking about this pay-per-view. A lot of the matches, including ones I haven't talked about yet, are very, very unpredictable. But I am going to lean more so toward Samoa Joe, especially with the fact of Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh being barred from ringside. They may try to bring another sort of interference out there, so all right, last minute guess. I'm going to go with Adam Cole for the win. A heelish victory. The big heel victory of the Shawn Michael-ish persona winning the first Owen Hart Cup tournament. I think they'll do it. Adam Cole's going to be the winner here. Next is one of the most anticipated matches with the longest built storylines, possibly of the entire card, and that is MJF versus Wardlow. A singles match with an obvious stipulation because, it's an MJF feud. They usually always have to happen that way in the best possible ways. I'm not trying to complain about it. If Wardlow wins, he will be granted his release from his contract with MJF. But if MJF wins, Wardlow will be permanently banned from signing with AEW. Now, the only harm I think this stipulation brings is that it makes it a little bit more obvious that Wardlow is going to win this match. While they definitely could bring a surprise MJF heel win here because he definitely always has a way to sneak that in to legitimately shock the fans, with Wardlow being one of the most popular characters that AEW has ever had, I think they're going to keep pulling the trigger and he is going to destroy MJF possibly within a minute or two like a good old Goldberg squash. I think it's going to be very fun. MJF will sell it greatly regardless if he wins or loses, and Wardlow's going to be dominant as hell, and it's going to be a very fun bout. And the second to last match, I believe, on the card is the AEW Women's World Championship match, with the champion Thunder Rosa going one-on-one against Serena Deeb. Now, this honestly has the potential to be AEW's best women's match of the year, let alone of all time. Serena Deeb is such a phenomenal wrestler, and the matches she's had with Riho, Hikaru Shida, and many others have always been fantastic. And Serena has almost always been the outshining performer regardless if she wins or loses. So I'm so excited to see what she brings to her first Women's World Championship match. And with it being Thunder Rosa's first defense on pay-per-view since she won it on AEW television at St. Patrick's Day Slam, she really is going to bring it all on the table. And the promo she has cut, even though she got interrupted with a couple previously, her anticipation for this match has gotten me more anticipated for this match, which is exactly what a fighting champion should be doing. And I'm very excited to see what the chemistry could really bring with these two. I don't know if they've had previous matches in the past. I could definitely see them having one, but I don't think I've seen a match between these two yet. So I'm very excited to see what these two could bring to the table. They could bring some very shocking and very risky sequences in this bout that will shock all of us. And who's going to win? I'm more so leaning toward Thunder Rosa, even though it's very possible that they could pull a very shock heel win on us, with Serena Deeb taking it. While I think some fans could be angry at that, since Thunder Rosa having such a short championship reign will be very anger-inducing for some fans, including me even. But I am going to lean toward Thunder Rosa winning this match, because I definitely think, even with Serena Deeb losing the first match, they could definitely keep a feud going with these two. And finally, we have reached the main event. It is Hangman Page versus CM Punk. Now, this is, honest to God, maybe the most unpredictable pay-per-view main event in AEW history. While the buildup hasn't been necessarily the biggest feud of all time, biggest world title match of all time buildup, I've genuinely gone back and forth so many times over the past few weeks if Hangman Page or CM Punk is going to walk out of Double or Nothing the AEW champion. With the amazing promos that they've had back and forth, especially with the line on Dynamite that Hangman Page said that I'm going to be defending the AEW championship from you. It was such great delivery, and it got me 10 times more hyped for the match than I already was, and the scale was already pretty damn high. And while I'm not necessarily sure that's going to be the Mac Classic of the year, they could definitely surprise us, because Hangman Page has been delivering Match of the Year candidates on almost a monthly basis. And CM Punk has consistently brought out better performance after every match, from Darby Allin to Eddie Kingston to MJF. It's all been great, and I think he could collide to his best ever performance in AEW with Hangman Page, especially with the amazing build-up to it, and with the fact that it's for the AEW World Championship, which Punk has always acknowledged it's something that he was wanting to go after, and he was going to take his time, and after the feud with MJF, it more so solidified his right to challenge for the title, even though Hangman Page challenged Punk for it himself, which was a nice little add to the story, which allowed Punk to do a little more mind games with him, which I'm definitely sure they're going to bring out in this match. And with how good both Hangman and Punk present story in the ring during a match especially, they could deliver out some amazing sequences here. And I still, with my decision, I still don't really know if I'm going to be right. Because I could see Hangman Page winning and a feud continuing, because Hangman's had a great reign so far, beating the likes of Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson, Lance Archer, and Adam Cole. I feel like with then the add of beating CM Punk, with his first clean loss on pay-per-view, his first actual loss at pay-per-view in AEW at that, it would be an extra mark for his championship reign, and I think Hangman would really need that validated more. But CM Punk is CM Punk. Everyone's been wanting him to come back for years. He's finally here. He's been delivering great matches, even more amazing promos. So I could definitely see them pulling the trigger here and giving it to him at Double or Nothing. But I think with what's happening here, because especially even with the storyline, they've been building up both Hangman and CM Punk as either the babyface or the heel. It's just like what either fan would lean toward, and that's sort of what brings out the best types of main event matches, especially when both competitors are babyfaces. And with who is going to win, I'm still going a bit back and forth. I could see Punk then officially turning heel to finally win the world championship. I might be leaning toward that, But for now, I'm going to stick with my gut and say that Hangman Page is going to beat CM Punk and retain the AEW Championship. And maybe at that point, CM Punk won't shake his hand or even attacks him after the match. Or maybe becomes a member of Blackpool Combat Club with a full heel turn then, maybe? I don't know. I'm just marking out over Blackpool Combat Club. That's my bad. But I'm so excited for this main event. It's going to be in my opinion, the most unpredictable main event in AEW pay-per-view history. So I'm very excited to see how this goes. So those were my predictions for the AEW Double or Nothing 2022 pay-per-view. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Make sure to like this podcast, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, and duke out your opinions in the comments below.